Chris Hex with the one and only HexHeart Podcast. And I have with me right now as the guest, the Axe Slayer, the one and only native son himself, Abel Vela Torres. Gosh, Abel, Abel Vela Torres.
There
You
you go.
are I have first off, let me move that a little bit. I have so many questions to ask you, like not just about Lioncourt, but I know that you have also side projects also that you do involving anime. You do a lot of guitar solos where you do anime stuff. I know that you are also in Lioncourt where you guys are doing content videos, which is amazing. Tell us more about what it is about Abel Vela Torres.
I mean, it's kind of a vague question. I like music, of course, and the whole anime thing. I'm a big anime fan. I think everybody in my band knows that, and I've got a few of them into different ones over the years. I think there's a lot of good context and stories and stuff, and it's real. It draws a lot of creativity, great soundtracks. As far as Lioncourt, that was initially just an idea of just a bunch of us who have played in different bands together. Joseph and I, uh, Joshua, and Marco all tried to do a thing called Beautiful Remains a few years back. Marco, Robert, and I were in Cryptic Ruins together. So there's a bit of like a collab that's been going on beforehand. We already had mutual chemistry. So getting together was kind of a thing that, seemed natural to do.
There you go. I remember a little while back. Speaking of Native Sons, wasn't that a band that you guys were all connected to? Was the Native Sons?
So Native Sons was basically initially the start of Lioncourt. We originally called ourselves Native Sons, but then decided to change the band name when we dropped our second music video because there was a lot of other bands and artists named Native Sons on Facebook, already on Spotify. So when we posted Haunted back in 2017, you would look up Native Sons and our song would actually come up under a different artist, different logo and everything.
Right, right.
Just to have better branding and clarity. We decided to change the band name. David Lioncourt, the singer,
Right.
like, hey, why don't we just call it Lioncourt? That's cool. Very vampy. Very Interview with a Vampire, the Lioncourt, big into that. And it worked for our image because we were changing our image. We decided to get a little darker with things, and it just kind of all seemed to fit together. Looked it up. I was doing research. Spotify, Facebook. I was like, well, it's no one's really using this. Why not just capitalize on that before somebody else grabs it?
There you go. One of the things that I am actually not unfamiliar with. I tried putting Chris Hex, HexHeart, and I don't know how many people on YouTube thinks that HexHeart is actually cool, but there's a lot of it. Like I literally had to coin my name to throw into it. Oh, okay, Chris HexHeart, HAR. When did you know it? So
yeah, you gotta have a unique identity to really stand out.
Can't have anything cool because everyone else wants it too, right?
That's right.
So you were originally Native Sons, turning into Lioncourt. Where exactly? When did from Native? So give us a play-by-play of the history of Native Sons to Lioncourt now.
So, Native Sons, we got together probably in October of 2017. It was just kind of an idea. Let's jam together. Let's do some songs together. Singer and I, we both work at Tesla full time. We were on graveyard shift together, tossing around ideas. We had already had a thing of him coming over, and I'd record demos for him, let him do whatever. And so we decided to do the band. Joseph Hyde was down, Marco was down, Robert, and then we put together our first song Haunted, which we released back in, I think, December of 2017. And we changed our name to Lioncourt, I think, in the summer of 2018 before dropping our second video. We did play a few shows as Native Sons, but then ultimately changed to Lioncourt that summer.
I believe one of those was actually a few of the festivals. I remember that there's a couple of photos from Brock's stage, Brock East TV Willie, and
he was Lucky Fest.
Yeah, I think it was Lucky Fest. It was Lucky Fest or one of the X Fests that you guys had inside of the garage. And there was like all tarpy and like you had the lights flaring all over the place and you guys are playing like 3 in a row. And that was Native Sons to me. So I honestly have to say, like, you guys made an impression even from the beginning for me.
All right, thanks so much.
So when did you? So you are the. So first up, before we continue on, tell us where we can reach you or how we can reach
you. It's a little loud. You can find Lioncourt. Everything's at handle Lioncourt official. Because you got to stand out from all the other Lioncourts. Also, I play bass in No Silence now. That's with Joseph, Brandon Yamashita, Tristan Costa, Brian Darby. And for me, everything, you can pretty much find me under the handle Abel the Third.
There you go. So you're Abel the Third. So is there there's an Abel Senior?
Yeah. I mean, not in the typical hereditary timeline. My grandpa's actually Abel Senior. My uncle would be Abel the Second, and then Abel the Third. It kind of sounds cool, like a John 5 type of thing. I think I was trying to learn that when I first started, because Abel Torres, that's all right, but you need a little spin.
An Abel name himself. I mean, it's badass. I literally named you the Gifted, in the writing. So you are in my eyes you're gifted. I'm pretty sure in other people like you people I think when they view you Joseph and Lioncourt and the others, you are held up on a pedestal. Technically, you're held up on a podium because of what
we put a lot of time into what we do. I personally don't think I'm talented by any means. I'm skilled. I put a lot of work into it. I didn't pick up guitar and knew what I was doing right away. I think I spent 2 years playing the same 2 riffs on one string and couldn't get past that until I really started hanging out with people who were already good at guitar. And then, you play with people who are better than you, makes you a better player,
That just goes back to the same lesson I've had throughout the rest of my guests. Is that it's if you hang around for rich kids, you're gonna be rich. If you hang around for dumpsters, you're gonna be a dumpster.
Yeah, you gotta pick and choose who you surround yourself with.
Hang out where you're gonna be the most good, and when you're gonna be the most good. And it seems like you like all the others that I've talked to are really nailing that lesson.
No doubt, because it speaks volumes. I mean, if you don't surround yourself with people who are better than you, then you never really have that next level to reach. You always think you're the best at something, and you're probably not. I know I'm not the best. I have tons of people around me who are way better in other aspects than I am, and we all respect each other.
Of course, there was a quote that I remember constantly being told. It's you're only the big fish until you see a bigger fish, and then you realize that's when you realize you're only the biggest fish in your pond. There's like you said, there's always bigger fish.
100%.
That's very honestly very humble of you. Honestly, that's a good trait. That's a good trait to have. honestly, when it comes to people in the scene. I mean, there's a lot of people that are like high up on their, silver spoon in their mouth, and they just think they're better than everybody else. But it's good to know that the scene has a lot of humble people.
Oh yeah, no doubt. 100%. Yeah, I love a lot of people in the scene. Guys like Costa Barbatakis from Hatred. Originally Modesto, now Bay Area. One of my best friends. In the scene. The guys from Nevian, Norman Skinner, Mark Miner, Gary Tarpley, the dudes from HexHeart. I could go on and on.
There's a lot. There's a ton of people. I mean, I myself could name like a whole bunch. Just from the metalcore scene to the punk to the death metal scene. I mean, Jamie Salazar, Joe Salazar, the Nothing But Loser crew. There's so many. There are just so many out there, and they're all talented. I mean, they wouldn't be on my podcast if I didn't think that they were hitting great strides. That's a big cue for my podcast. Is that if you're across from me over a computer screen, you've hit stardom, or you're one of the greats in people's eyes.
Yeah, right on.
So continuing on, who are some of your inspirations? Because when I was looking back and I was listening to a lot of your music, I got a Motley Crue-ish 3 Days Grace vibe, like very very sharp, very rushed, very like almost like a chase scene,
Okay.
But then there's like a dark undertone where like you can almost hear people screaming underneath. It's very tactical, but is that your intent, or is that just how it came out?
For sure with Lioncourt, we have a lot of like the older influences, Motley Crue, Skid Row, Ozzy Osbourne's a big one for me, and a lot more modern bands, who could I say is more of like a modern influence? There's a lot of them. I think we really draw a lot from the older stuff with that band. Me personally, I'm a big metalhead, so my inspirations come from a lot more obscure stuff, but I find a common ground with them, like in the middle with just like, I love cheesy 80s guitar solos and guitarists, like all the dudes from Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads, Shaky Lee, Zakk Wylde. I'm a big fan of like George Lynch, all the Dawkins stuff, Firehouse is cool. A lot of stuff.
Dawkins always a good one to draw inspiration from. I don't know how you could practically make like AMV videos off Dawkins all day long, and people will just eat it up.
Yeah. There's a lot of that there. We're trying to push some newer music in a little bit more of a modern direction, but we still always have that background. I think that comes a lot to just like Josh's vocal performance. You can hear a lot of that in because he's just sang so much over the years. And so I think anything we do musically under that will always carry a little bit of that weight around.
One of the things that just a quick question while you guys play. Do you ever take pictures together, you and Joseph, with both your guitars? Kind of like a Avenged Sevenfold type of thing with Sinister Gates and the other guy. You know what I'm talking about?
Zacky Vengeance.
Zacky Vengeance. Thank you. When they go back to back a lot of the time. Do you ever do that with? With John?
No, I wouldn't say so. The thing that makes that work out so well is that I can't remember which one. I believe it's Zacky is left-handed. So when they face opposite directions, they're both still holding guitars in front of them. Hyde and I both play right-handed, so we're both.
So you look like you were doing the train with your guitars.
Yeah. If you were to face different ways, one person's back would basically be to you, and the other person's front would. We can't do.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
you can't pull it off all the time. We have to do more like the Iron Maiden kind of like side by side type of thing.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So how long have you? How long have you known your bandmates?
Ooh, I'd say most of them probably since I've known Hyde probably since like 2010, 2011, just from, seeing him at shows and stuff. We didn't really talk as much, but we knew a lot of the same guys. We really started to hang out and really get to know one another, I think more like 2013, 2014. He's had some stuff in the works with, our singer, and he was kind of tossing me the idea. I thought the singer sounded great. I wanted to kind of get in on the thing. So we started hanging out. That's how I was introduced to our drummer. Our bass player, I got introduced a little while longer. I think I knew him from one of my old bands because he popped in at the job site that we used to rehearse at. But I didn't really know him until later on. I think we really started to get to know each other when we played in Cryptic Ruins together, which was probably more like 2016. And then
Cryptic Ruins brings back memories. They actually they broke up, didn't they? Didn't they broke up?
Yeah.
Time took over. I was trying actually. I remember a little while back I was trying to put a metal concert together, and I was like, "What about Cryptic Ruins?" Like, hey, I think they fell off the bandwagon. They fell off. They fell off. We never heard from them again.
Yeah, well, I mean, three of us are in Lioncourt now. The drummer, the bassist, and I.
So you are technically, all three of you are from Cryptic Ruins.
Pretty much. I mean, you could say like we're a mesh of Beautiful Remains and Cryptic Ruins. Beautiful Remains, our version of Beautiful Remains never really got going. There was a whole different lineup when we first started jamming together. We put out like one song, and then eventually it just turned into Native Sons at some point in time. And, it was basically the same lineup minus a different bass player.
So why Native Sons? Are you all native, or was it more something?
We definitely got that question a lot too, and they'd be like, "Oh, you guys aren't like Indian or whatever." It was more just like a shout out to like
anyway.
Yeah. Well, like in Europe, there's a local band called the Local Band. It's made up of like Alexi Lyle, R.I.P. From Children of Bodom. Art Cruz from Santa Cruz, and just a bunch of other guys. So it was kind of in the same cheeky idea that it was like Native Sons were like the local dudes, basically. That's what it translated out to.
Oh, Native Sons. Okay, yeah. So it's more like you are from here.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people knew us already from different projects. So it's kind of like, hey, we thought it worked. Obviously, it didn't.
I think the only breakdown happened there is that you need to be a little bit more interactive with that name. Like, of course, you think you close your eyes and you say Native Son, you instantly think natives. But if you take time to think about it, it's like, so you're the Native Son. So maybe instead of Native Son, I was like, the Native Sons, or maybe put it online. Information for the future, I guess. But I understand that kind of a puzzle band name. But that's cool.
Nobody will get it unless you explain it. Like right now, it kind of.
I know it gets it unless you explain it to them.
And it wasn't really a great band name because if you got to explain the context about a band name, it's
not fun anymore.
Yeah,
but it's the same thing of a joke. If I have to explain a joke to you, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, it's already over at that point.
All right. Well, good luck to you on that front. So you are now in the process of what's your next project? Either you yourself or you as Lioncourt.
So, I mean, there's definitely a lot going on. Lioncourt, we just wrapped up a new single. That should be dropping next month, I believe. We're working on that. No Silence has a bunch of unreleased music. I think we've only released one song as the current lineup. They started getting going last year, but but we have a different singer and different bassist. I'm on bass now, so there's definitely a lot of material there that we have to play around with. As for myself, I'm just I come up with little ideas as I get wind.
You're doing the side hustle. You're doing the side hustle like the rest of us, I guess, because of
yeah.
There you go.
Time, and I got my own ideas. A lot of my style personally is a little more geared to a heavier European style metal.
Right.
I like putting out stuff in that type of context on my side. I do my own solo music that I've been releasing music since 2017 as well. So hopefully trying to get the inspiration to kick out a new single or a new EP at some point. I got a lot of ideas, but I just haven't been able to put it all together and make it.
One of the things that I noticed, not just about you, but a lot of people in the local scene. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. Anyway, where was I? So the supposed question I have, not just gathering to you, but the gathering to the scene, I'm noticing a lot of singles, but not a lot of albums. Is that because you have to pay for it, or do you? I mean, I know you guys have a lot of songs. I know that you play. You could play all day long if you wanted to. But has it ever occurred to you to make true albums, like maybe seven in a group? I mean, the reason I ask you is because I have not seen. I've seen a lot of people do it if they're at their peak, but if they're not at their peak, they'll waver. And I know it's a question because I know people I know the bands of the Central Valley have the ability to. I just question why not, and maybe you can kind of fill that in. There's a lot of singles, but no albums.
I got you. Yeah, no, I mean financially, it's definitely a thing. You go in and you want to do guitars with a producer, get all that, drums, mix and mastering. You're looking at anywhere, depending on where you go, probably $500 a song, so you put that up and then you do 8 songs or 10 songs. Most albums are about 10 songs. It's $5,000 that you're putting out. I mean, between 5 different people, it's $5,000 each. But then you're looking at marketing to make sure it's actually getting out there, getting pushed. You want to do all these little things. And I think, depending on where you're at with your budget, that's one thing of it. Another thing is just people's attention span. We go from, liking one thing 1 second to the next day you're liking something else. So it's really hard to keep people on track. So putting a whole album in front of people, you start getting, you listen to an album, how many songs do you really like out of an album? You like 2 or 3, and then the rest of them are just kind of fillers, unless you're a diehard fan and you love the entire thing. So I think there's a strategy with that, putting out one song.
Right. Would using it would putting it on YouTube or one of those streamers, one of the streaming platforms, help that a little bit because it's not as in solid in a solid format.
Oh no,
or does it matter one way or another?
No. I think that's what most people do nowadays. It's really easy to get your music on Spotify, Amazon all at the same time, Apple Music with stuff like DistroKid, I think CD Baby, TuneCore. They're all platforms that you upload your song and they do all the distribution. They get everything on there within a couple weeks' time. If you have your music ready and you want to do a later release, you can have it so it just drops on the exact date that you want it to. So that's not a big deal. That's pretty easy. I think another thing with singles though is you give the listener and the fan more time to digest one song at a time. You really, pick the best one you want.
It leads you to a concert.
Yeah. They get to know the song. They'll be singing along with the words, and then, also you'll have more for them. You can keep delivering more and more content. Which, in a day of social media, you want to have a lot of content backlog, so you don't ever have these long periods where you don't have anything. You drop an album and you're pushing the album for a whole year. Okay, eventually, that album's going to burn out when you could just be releasing, let's say quarter one, you drop a single, quarter two, you drop a single, quarter three, you drop another single, and then quarter four, you drop the whole album, and then people can kind of pick and choose. But at least they've learned and got familiar with like 3 songs before you do that. You kind of build up. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. There's still bands putting out albums, and I think there's still a romantic idea with that you have a physical copy and people want that. They want signed copies. It just really depends. Budget's definitely a thing. Just goal, how you want to strategize, releases and keep your band relevant.
There you go. Honestly, the way you put it is kind of how I'm doing HexHeart Podcast right now, is because when I was promoting, my last show was 2020, and it was relatively successful. But then right after, as I prepared to bring up my next set of events, COVID drops and everything shut down. And I technically, I'm not proud to say I've only had 3 concerts promoted. I've had the one at Spinnaker's. I had the one at the other place, which bombed. I had the one at over at actually there's 2. There was one that was at the other place. That was the metal one. It's through the Looking Glass. It didn't go off at all. No one showed up for that. Like, people stayed for Harlot Exiled, and then after that, no one showed up after that. Like, I literally got up on stage and said, "Come on in," and I looked around. There was nobody there. It's like everyone. And then the second one that I had was Punk in the City. That's one that had a lot of the punk show, and it got relatively successful. I made enough to pay some of the bands, not all of them, sadly. And then the third one was the one at Spinnaker's, which went off, and it was really successful. I made $200 on a $5 admission charge, which really was amazing. I paid all the bands, I paid all the work. It was really successful. And then I got $20 myself because everyone got paid at the end. So it was a really good day. And then COVID drops. And so now it's like, well, I can't rely on people to remember that I did this show back in 2020 that was successful. That's not going to fly. It's been, 2 years? 2 years about?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's been about 2 years. It's like, I got to get out. I should say, incorporate you guys also. We need to get out there and keep going, even if COVID is, hitting us hard, or no one's going to remember that we exist. And, it's a bad reality, but that's the truth. You're, in the right scheme of things. What did a friend of mine say? They said that once COVID dropped, we reset. So it's also now, places are shutting down and opening back up. Bands are starting over back from where they were scratched. I'm doing the same thing with HexHeart Podcast. So people, this is me. I'm doing this. When the promotion comes around, I'm gonna go back to bringing in guests and bands and stuff like that. It's a way for us to keep ourselves not just busy through the COVID, so we're not losing our minds, but it's also to make sure that people know we are still active. I mean, I think that through this year alone, we've had over 5 Central Valley bands just quit because, and COVID killed it. COVID killed the bands because we can't go out there. We can't go out there. We can't play. If you can't get within 6 feet of someone, you definitely can't go and play a band.
100%.
So that's definitely, I definitely feel you on your endeavors when it comes to your constant planning. It's a good way of keeping things going.
Yeah, which we haven't been the best about it either. So I'm just saying what I see work for a lot of other artists, and then, just as an individual, I try to keep myself busy, just keeping relevant with little things here and there. I mean, it's all you can really do.
Do you practice?
Hopefully people don't forget about you.
Right. Do you practice in your spare time?
A little bit. I'm definitely. I practice when I need to. I went into the studio to do a guitar solo last week and had to dust off the chops. I went in there, my fingers were raw because I hadn't been playing for too long. So I was like, I should have been practicing for at least 2 weeks before and had everything ready. Luckily, it wasn't the worst. The muscle memory's there. It's just the endurance isn't. You lose your callus.
Yeah, your fingers get soft, huh? Because
everything just rips up. And I was like, now I can feel a little bit of callus now from that, just because I destroyed them. So now I'm like, probably play like a little bit after this or something. Just make sure I keep them there this time.
There you go.
Both bands are going to start rehearsing again this weekend. Because we hear about a lot of stuff opening back up. Some possible show opportunities. So it's a good time to start dusting off the chops and getting that chemistry flowing again.
Get back into it. I know that at some point we are going to start back up on concerts. It's just a matter of time. We survived it. We just gotta wait out the rest.
Yeah. We had some tickets to concerts that we were going to go to, and we've already got a couple emails saying that a few things are back on for, I think, September, October. I've seen a few gigs.
Are you going to go to Aftershock?
No, not this year. I went the last year they did it. I think System of a Down played. Didn't get the tickets for this one. Probably cost me an arm and a leg to get them at this point. And Aftershock.
You might be able to talk to Dave Usher or Brendan Blacker of Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box. They are sponsoring. They are being sponsored by Aftershock. They might be able to help you out. Maybe.
I mean, either way, Aftershock's kind of a mission. You 1 day's cool, 2 days starts feeling a little rough, and I think it's 3 days a year. I'm just like, no step for that.
Too much. Can't do that.
Yeah,
actually, your question on Aftershock actually leads into the next question I was going to ask. Have you ever, in your time playing Lioncourt, no secrets? Was it no secrets? I want to make sure I got it. No silence. No silence. Or native songs. Have you met or played with on a stage with any of your heroes, like any of the old famous or the new famous?
I mean, I know for our singer in Lioncourt, playing the Whiskey a Go-Go with Firehouse was a big deal because he was a big Firehouse fan. I didn't really get into Firehouse till after I watched them because they were amazing. They were really cool to watch play and everything. I've played some cool stuff. I think it's always post for me. I'm a big Motionless in White fan, and back when I played in Better Left Unsaid, I think Motionless in White played the same stage we did in Texas during South by Southwest, but I didn't know who they were at the time. I only really picked them up afterwards. I was like, oh, this is really cool. So as far as
you used to play with Motionless in White, is that what you just said?
Well, I think we played the same stage. I didn't even know who they were. I think they went on. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then I went to go get a slice of pizza somewhere. And then the guys in the band were talking about Motionless in White and Whitechapel. And I was like, oh, did we play with them or something? And I didn't really know it. It was this was back in 2011, maybe. It was a long time ago. They weren't who they were now. It's not like we played with Motionless.
Oh, yeah, they didn't blow up until a little after you probably met them.
Yeah. But we played with some cool bands. I played with some cool bands over the time. Smile Empty Soul. I think, like I said, that one. In my mind's drawing a blank right now. Firehouse was a cool one. There's definitely been some cool shows out there, and even the other guys, they played in different bands, and they've all done other things too. So, as far as just a hero that I have today, no, I've never really played. I don't think Lioncourt would play bands with that, because I'm into bands like Firewind, Gallinarius, all these obscure foreign power metal bands and all that. It'd be cool to play with who's one that I know that like we kind of fit the bill with. I don't know.
Well, would you fit? Would you fit? Would you fit in? Well, let me ask you: your band or your bands, do they follow towards death metal or metalcore?
Uh, I would say neither. Maybe a little metalcore on the No Silence side, but not really. Like at least not the metalcore I'm thinking of. No Silence kind of has more of that new metal with like a modern metal. You know, kind of like a mix of like Corn, Bring Me the Horizon,
Kind of like a
Architect.
Linkin Park vibe, kind of like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Actually, you know, Linkin Park.
That dark edginess.
You know, it's heavy, but then there's like some like electronics in there and all that. While Lioncourt, it's definitely more like old '80s, you know, hair
Well,
metal
I
beats
was
like
feeling
modern
that.
rock. So nothing really metalcore. I'd say my own music probably goes a little more on the metalcore side, just because I work with Chris Clancy, who's the singer in Mutiny Within. So he's really got those vibes, you know, a lot of like Kill Switch Engage, As I Dine, Bullet for My Valentine, like older Bullet for My Valentine. So, but not these bands, not so much on like death metal or metalcore. I mean, Brian in No Silence does have some harsher vocals, you know, with the screams and stuff, but it's not too prominent. He's more of a clean singer. It just kind of like comes in where it needs to be.
One of the things that I'm greatly noticing, and I'm probably noticing it more towards the metalcore side than death metal, because I remember being told before that death metal and metalcore kind of like clash with each other. I don't know if that's really true. I have friends on metalcore and death metal side. Um,
Depends on who you ask.
a lot of people, a lot of the question comes from their lyrics, like metalcore, where it's singing and then screams as like the chorus, or you know, maybe they have the melodic chorus and then they scream like for the to take care of the open air. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that falls more into we really get into subgenres right there because that's like melodic metalcore, like your Kill Switch Engage, your older Bullet for My Valentine, you know, all those bands, they'd be classified as melodic metalcore because it's like a mix of the melodic death metal from Europe and then the metalcore from like the US. If you just talk about like straight metalcore, I think a lot of guys would say, you know, that's like your Hatebreed, and something more along that lines where there's really not that clean singing, but that's like the basis of it. So
Well, I was thinking more like
yeah.
I was thinking more maybe like Amity Affliction,
Yeah.
Parkway Drive, like you said.
So those guys
I
more on the melodic side. Yeah. They're definitely more on the melodic metalcore side because it's like a mix of like, you know, you got like your cool like In Flames riffs, but then you got like those, you know, heavy breakdowns that might have been like Hatebreed inspired or something like that. And, you know, so there's a lot of different clashes of that. And then, you know, death metal, you know, there's so many different like, again, subgenres and little niches for different things. You know, when I think like death metal, I think like Cannibal Corpse, Napalm Death. But then you have like your more modern metal or death metal acts, or even your deathcore, and they just get, you know, really, really obscure.
Then you're really getting. Then you're really cutting it. Then you're really cutting it thin because the more like, then you get like into deathcore. Then you get into like I think there's a grunge core. Isn't there a grunge core?
Yeah, grindcore. I mean,
grindcore, grungecore. There's all sorts.
There's a lot. I mean, people just list it up, and you know, it's cool. You know, give you a little. It's good marketing to have your own little twist on something.
I actually remember, and there's a band that I'll put up. It actually is like electronic death metal, like I think it's called electric core, I think. But it was like these bands where like they'll combine like these electronic bass drops and techie sounds like Skrillex with screams of death metal, and it's really good, but doesn't last. There's probably like 3 songs of this
Hmm.
of this band that does it, and it's good, but it's bad because they throw it out there and they leave it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Some people just like
I'll be
it's all
sure
about
to
the shock factor.
right. I'll be sure to I'll make a link underneath the show to get people to see it.
Right on.
All right. Well, it's talking about I'm talking with bands with Abel Vela Torres. That is amazing. So what are your goals for the future?
Retire before I'm 50.
Good luck.
No, I mean, goals as far as the bands go. I mean, I think both bands are really just trying to do some cool shit. Lioncourt, we're a little more laid back. We definitely want to play some really, dope stuff. I think the goal is always play some big shows with some cool people. Maybe do some festivals one day, maybe tour one day. For me, just put out music. Like as a creative person, I just want to put my name or my stamp on as many things as I can. I have a lot more focus on the creativity side with my own stuff. I do a little bit here and there. I haven't really done too much with the guys in No Silence. I barely joined for this last music video, and so I haven't really done any creative.
Are all of these guys still active, or did most of these bands shut down?
I feel like for COVID, a lot of it just like slowed down. No Silence barely came to last year, so it was during COVID. They dropped one music video, and then it just kind of like went silent after that. Contrary to the name, there was some silence.
Do you think they'll come back?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're working on stuff. We have songs in the process of coming out. It's just all about the marketing part of it, making sure we're going to put out songs over X amount of time and make sure we really capitalize on all that. And then as far as for me, goals, definitely want to put out a couple more albums. I have a lot of little ideas for that. Tons of song ideas. Just making them the way I want them before I put them out there is tough. Mm-hmm. And when you do it yourself, yeah. Solo music can be a little touchy. You're too inside your head, like, oh, I got this idea, and you try so hard to make it happen yourself. But
that's an interesting way you put it that way, because my last guest. Sorry, I just blanked out for a second. My last guest from Norse Frost, Brian Lewis. There it is. Okay. He was also doing some solo projects. In fact, Norse Frost is his it's his own. What would I put it? His own process. It's his baby. I try to put it a better way than just his baby, but
yeah.
So does that mean that you kind of have that same idea of your solo projects? Like it's all about you wanting to control it all, I guess. Or is this more something that you at some point want to incorporate with other musicians? Like maybe give this
Oh yeah, no, I got you. So I mean, my first release was pretty much all solo. I had a singer, just sing the lyrics I wrote, and he helped me a little with like little touch-ups here and there. But with my last release, I hired a session drummer. I had a session bass player. I had the same singer. I even had a different keyboardist. But all the ideas were basically there, because I think when you approach something like that, you have a vision. So you want to lay down as much foundation as you can before you toss it somebody else's way, to be like, hey, this is my idea, but I like your style. I want that your personal style added, because I'm not a drummer. So, I like when I can get a drummer and they do their thing. And, I can program drums pretty well, but there's always it's going to be missing that drummer element there. Same thing with bass players, same thing with singers, because they will, I'll sit here and think of how I think it should sound, being sung. That way it kind of fits. And then, the singer will write me back, hey, can you give me like 2 times as many lyrics here? Because I want to make it a little faster. And, if you could add to it. So then I'm back and writing again. But no, like, I think even doing a solo project, you want to work with other people just to kind of help make those ideas get there quicker. Because I can sit there and stress over like one idea, like let's say I'm like, oh, I can't get these drums to go the way I want them. So why don't I just, go and try to work with a drummer who's going to help me get there, or, work with a producer who's going to, I'll be like, oh, I kind of want to add like a bring me the horizon element.
If you can't do it yourself, get someone that can.
Get somebody who's, an expert in the field, somebody who's already got that, because otherwise I'll spend the next 2 years, trying to figure out what drummers are doing, and then I can finally come back, and then I'll be like, oh, I don't have the bass part. Let me spend another 2 years trying to figure out how a bassist should do this, and it becomes counterproductive, and then I'll spend 10 years and not release a single song.
There you go, because then you get all wrapped up inside of the process of the processing, and then it's all inside your head, and then it's it's always there's a good way that I was told that it's always good to get an outside perspective. That for example, like when I write a lot, so like I'll go in my head and I'll just write, and it's like, you know what, this sounds really good, I'm gonna write more, and before you know it, like I've written like a whole book, and then someone like I'll say, so read, and like they get bored after the first few pages. It's like, I wrote this entire book. Well, maybe if you had gone over to someone and actually listened to what their outside perspective saying, you would get that, oh, okay, so this is not the idea people really want to read or people want to listen to, because you think it's good, but you don't have any of that outside. It's all about you and your head. So you're like, oh, this sounds good, this sounds bad, this sounds good, this sounds bad, this sounds good, this sounds bad.
Which, you definitely want your ideas to come out, but you also want it to come out in a presentable way, and in a way that people can easier digest. And that's, what comes to. There might be some extra fat on all that needs to be trimmed off in order to get the point across a little better. And if you're only relying on yourself and you're not like the expert in that, you definitely should reach out to somebody who can be like, hey, I know you're really good with this. I like your work. If you could check this out, give me some pointers, because I've been like stressing over this for like the last 3 months, and I don't know where to go from here. And like, I'll never release this because I think it's absolute trash at this point. And it's definitely a lot you can do there.
It's not just for, it's one of the things I also want to mention is it's just not for music, but it's for basically anything. You want that without trying to okay being mean to people. You definitely want that brutal honesty, because like I said, back to the analogy of the book, if I had said, hey, why don't you try, hey, would you look at this book? And I was trying to send it into a publisher, and they're like, dude, this is not bad, I guess, it's good. And then I sent it to a publisher, and the publisher said, dude, this is crap. What the fuck are you thinking? You're gonna be the friend's gonna be resented. The feelings are gonna get hurt. There's gonna be an argument.
Yeah.
You want that personal perspective, and not just from your buddies, but you also want it from the public also, because you are playing for the public, or public, for the public scene. Anyone that goes to concerts who knows you or knows what you're about will want to listen to some of your music. And if you don't get that feedback that your solo is any good, you wasted a lot of your talent, because I didn't give that small inkling to the public. That's actually one of the really difficult things about actually promoting, and especially for me, because when I was being a tech, when I was doing lights tech, I had a boss at all times. And in that regard, it's one thing to like really piss off your boss; they can fire you. But to piss off the public, like that's the thing about promoters, that promoters don't have bosses; they have the public, and it's a lot worse. Like every single the shows that I threw, it just led people to like not even show up, and it's worse than getting fired. It's like there's nobody in this building except me and the people I'm supposed to pay. So it's the publics are the. I say the public is nasty because that's not nice. That's not the best thing to put it. The public is brutal. Like they will, if they don't like what you're doing or how you're sounding, they'll leave. I've been there. Like I literally saw like an entire bar just clear out as soon as one band left, and it was a really harsh experience. But like you said, it's all about when you do when you do click everything right and the public does enjoy what you're doing, you guys have a reputation. And I think that reputation definitely buffers because the people know what you're about. They know what you can do. And when you put out these solo projects out there, they're gonna eat it up. I mean, you're pretty popular, not just for your band, but for you guys individually and what you're about. So a lot of luck to you, my friend. There's a lot going for you, and this solo is a challenge for you, and I think you'll ace it.
Yeah, I definitely have. I just gotta start making the right steps in the direction. I think I'm just still a little too stuck in my head with certain things. I'm like, oh, I know who I want to work with. I know where I want it to go, but I don't have the idea in a presentable way enough to be like, oh, here's what I got, and then go from there. So there's still a little bit of just getting it done. But right now, like I said, Lioncourt's getting going a little bit. No Silence. We're just gonna start jamming. We're in the studio, so a lot of that's taking my time. Even before that, I was doing 7 songs for Norman Skinner, which will be on his next solo album, The Dark Design.
Oh, yeah. You were working with Neviane on top of that. That's actually pretty cool. You have one of the things that he said on my last one is he liked the way I put when I said Neviane, but that's the way I was saying it. It says. You should check out that video when I actually have an interview with them and we actually talk back and forth. It's pretty cool.
All right.
So you have quite an extensive record of successes. I have to say, you've worked with three bands, and you're working with Niviane and Lioncourt and doing solo projects. Where do you find the time?
Yeah, I've been going for a long time. I don't really have a social life. That's it.
Well, none of us really have a social life right now.
If you want it, you got to sacrifice some stuff. And luckily, it's been pretty balanced. We definitely don't. Like one project's not going too much harder than the other one to where I can't keep up. If it gets to that point, there's definitely have to be some balancing. Like, okay, like right now, my solo stuff a little bit more on the back burner just because I don't really have the time to sit down and let the creative flow go the way I want it to when I'm learning bass parts or in the studio, doing guitar solos. Or
a little bit of meditation helps with that. I definitely will.
There's seasons for everything. My season right now is Lioncourt, No Silence, and a little bit of social media stuff. When I get a quick idea that I can just like knock out real, without too much effort, I'll do that, between little things. Just time management, man. You got to set
your management. That's a good way of putting it. That's a rule that everyone should go by. Time management.
I mean, on my work days, I work for 12 hours, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So my night's gone. I'm sleeping from like 8 a.m. And I usually try to get up around like 2 p.m. That way I have some time before work to, get ready, find time, get a little exercise in, try to knock out a quick music idea, work on social media stuff. And then, it's off to the grind and keep track of ideas as I'm there. I'll be working. And then if I have, a quick idea, write it down, save it for later. So when I have my time off, I can get around to that idea and, start just keep progressing. You always gotta. There's plenty of time in the day. You know, a lot of people say there's no time or I'm too busy. You always have time for what's your priority, and you can always make the
There
time.
you go. You always have time for what's your priority.
Mhm.
What do you do for a living?
I am a lead material handler at Tesla over in
Right.
Lathrop. So I lead a team of forklift drivers. You know, I used to be one of the forklift drivers, and now I'm the shift lead. So I just
There
do
you go.
inventory, keep track of stuff. Not you know, it's nothing glamorous. You know, people dig Tesla. It's a tough job
Tesla's pretty
sometimes.
bitching right now.
Yeah, it's a hard job. You know, like just constant changes, always new stuff going on. But you know, it pays the bills and lets me do music more freely because you know, there's always that stereotype of the starving musician, and you know, I gotta eat. You know, I
All
gotta pay my
musicians
bills.
all have a job.
Yeah, you know,
Let's just cut that right out.
yeah, it'd be nice. Like if I had a little bit of time off, you know, during COVID, you know, a few weeks, you know, nothing too crazy. And it was nice to just be able to like get up and like, oh, I can just play guitar today. I can play tomorrow. I can do this and that. But you know, until I get the right plan to get to where I can do music full time without having to worry about, you know, missing a truck payment or, you know, not paying my phone bill, then definitely got to keep working on it.
All right, all right. Off the topic of music for a second. You do solo, well, sort of. You do solos for different movies and anime. Are you an otaku?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I classify more as that than like, you know, the term weeb or weeaboo. Those guys are extreme.
Whatever that is, weeaboo, whatever that is.
Yeah, I sit at home. I do my anime binges. I read some manga. You know, I'm a big fan. I've been a fan for a pretty long time. You know, my generation. You know, we grew up with like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and all that. You know, as a kid in middle school. But I really got into a lot of the less mainstream animes over the last like 10 years or so, and so I watch a lot of different stuff. You know, I'm a big fan.
It's always good to find outlets. You know, one of the things a lot of people say that animes say the joke is that nerds aren't cool, and then they look at us.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's like,
you know, a lot of people don't see that when I got like the more goth stuff on and I'm playing with Lioncourt. You know, you wouldn't really think it. Even like, you know,
you wouldn't think metalheads can get into. You wouldn't think the metal scene could get into anime, but I know there is so many people in the metal scene that get down with this type of stuff. I mean,
well, I think it's just
get down,
a matter
get down
of
with anime, get down with magic. I mean,
yeah. I think
there's
it
a
comes to the generation because like our generation we're more exposed to that than the older generation. So obviously, you know, you won't hear like the guitarist from Iron Maiden say that, you know, he's watching Attack on Titan because, you know, it just wasn't there. But, you know, I think they said over the last 5 years or so is when the majority of anime has been made. The older shows had longer episodes. You know, you had your One Piece. You know, almost 1,000 episodes. You know, Dragon Ball Z, which was Dragon Ball Z GT.
and then you have Fate
But
and
now there's so many shows that come out that are just short. You know, there's so many of them that it's a part of the generation now. So now it's cool to be that guy because there's so much of it.
where were
And it's
you
just,
in high school?
yeah, that's fine. I wasn't really that much of an anime guy in high school, I think. You know, like I said, Dragon Ball Z, that was probably it for me back then. Yu Yu Hakusho. It wasn't until like 2010, I think my brother was watching Bleach. He's like, oh, you got to watch this. So I was like, I don't really got time for that. And then next thing I know, I'm, you know, 3 months in. Just
Right.
finish it.
So what turned you on to the idea of doing covers of anime songs? That's actually pretty innovative.
I think it comes from a lot of the YouTubers I saw that were doing like video game covers, because a lot of people dug video game music from like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, all that. So it's kind of the same thing, there's a lot of great composers in anime, and some of them, I definitely have a few that really speak volumes to me, just the way they put the music behind a scene and it really moves the scene. Because you can have a great scene, but if it doesn't have the right music, it won't move you the same way. And I've noticed some animes kind of lacking that, even when they have great original soundtracks. So I'm a big fan of Hiroyuki Sawano, who's done like Attack on Titans, probably the most notable thing. Yuki Hayashi, and just a lot of those dudes. It's the same thing with like video game music. There's a lot of great video game composers, and I think there's just you listen to it and like, let me try to figure out how to do that on guitar, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just really depends.
I tried doing some covers for Bleach. It's not easy. There's actually a video of me doing one of the songs by Yui, and it's Shooting Star by Bleach.
Okay.
And it's so difficult. It's like ding, 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 ding. I mean, it doesn't work. Like I'm like literally like at an angle going ding, 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 ding. It doesn't look good. And I actually can't believe my video does. Like, hey, I'm playing the guitar. Ding, ding, ding. It doesn't work.
There's a lot of great music in Bleach. I think my best YouTube cover on my own channel is a Bleach cover of Battle Ignition, and
you have the robe and everything.
Yeah. It's got over 40,000 views right now. I think it's been up for a couple years. So there's definitely people watching. And I get a lot of comments like, "Oh, this is the best version I've ever heard." And I'm like, I don't know about that, but it's fun. There was already a lot of guitars in that song, so it was pretty easy just kind of like hear it out. Other ones where you just have like, other songs where it might just be like strings and all that. Takes a little more work to get it down, because you want the right background and set it all up, and there's a process, but it's becoming more of a thing. I think I see a lot of people on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, a lot of them are pushing that type of stuff, and I think it's really cool. I'm kind of like mad at myself for not pushing more, because I have a lot of ideas, but I don't have a lot of follow through with some of those because they're tough.
Do you have a TikTok?
I do. It's Abel Vela Torres as well. It's still pretty new. Not barely getting going on that.
I don't know. I'm still debating TikTok. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the negatives of TikTok, and I don't know if people like you are on TikTok. It can't be that bad.
So here's my thing. Anything that has an audience is something you can leverage and something you can reach more people on. So whatever the negatives are, I don't think it outweighs the fact that it's another way for you to get out there. And, TikTok's pretty hot. It's still, I think it's hotter with the younger generation. So, you definitely have to find your right niche, find the things you need to do. But I think if you leverage
I guess I basically use TikTok to announce whenever I'm going to have a new guest. But because it's only like, 60 seconds? Something like that?
I think they're longer now. But 60 seconds is pretty much the cutoff time, which even with that, you probably want your videos on TikTok to be like 15 to 30 seconds long. That's like the sweet spot, because the more your video gets viewed, the more your algorithm is pushed. So they see, if you have a minute long video, and with people's attention spans, if they're only watching 5 seconds of that video, 10 seconds, they're only watching the rest. Yeah, they're watching like 1/5 to 1/10. So TikTok sees that, and they won't push your content as much. If you have a 15-second video and they want to watch 5 seconds, they watch a third of that. So it looks better in your statistics. So, there's definitely something to be said with just having, again, it goes back to, like writing the book. You want to figure out what your idea is, and then trim as much of the fat off as you can. That way it's right to the point. It gets there, it gets the exposure it needs, and then it's on to the next one.
I guess the best way that I would use TikTok would be to announce who my guest is next time, and then point to my YouTube video, and then maybe after I start promoting, I'll start using TikTok the way I use Facebook video. I guess I don't know. I'll throw that around. All right,
so research, you definitely gotta see how it'll work best for you.
There you go. So So let's talk. Okay, so we're at about an hour. So a few more questions, and I'll let you go. What is with the gothic makeup? I mean, not personally for me. I know you rock it, and I know what it's for. But for the people in the community, why? I mean, it has something that has not been seen as a masculine thing,
Hmm.
but you rock it. You rock it almost more than Chris Pohl from Blue Angel, and they're all the way in Europe.
I mean, I don't know if I rock it that well. The other guys probably do it a little better. I'm okay with blending and all that, but I think it goes back again to the '80s influence. Glam bands. Motley Crue, Skid Row, Twisted Sister. All these guys were wearing that back then. And for us, I think it's about standing out. Because you go to a show. Nothing against the dudes who just go out there in jeans and band shirts. But I feel like as an entertainer, we want to, be showman. We want to give the crowd something more, So we definitely go, with the black paint, eyeliner. I probably got it down more than the rest of us because he does that on like a daily basis. So,
Mhm.
I think it's all about image, because I think we've caught the eye of people who wouldn't really want to check us out at first. Sometimes because they're interested and think we look cool. Sometimes because they think we look totally retarded. I had one guy who said he saw us with our makeup, and he's like, "Oh, these guys are gonna suck. They're just all
Ooh,
image. They're gonna be bad." And
whoa,
he
oh,
came up
that's
to me after the show and told me that. And he's like, "But you guys were really good. Like, I am really impressed. I didn't expect." And that's another thing. People don't expect it. I think when you see it, you think like, oh, I don't know. Some people might think we're more of like a gothic band. Some people might think we're gonna come off and be like a death metal band, like Emotionless and White or something. But then we sound like Motley Crue mixed with Fozzy or something like that.
would think that you were like trying to go for like a Tokyo Hotel or a Blackfield Brides type of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm a big fan of Avatar. They kind of do a lot more with their get-ups. Black Veil Brides and Old Avenged Sevenfold, cool stuff. Motionless in
Oh,
White
yeah,
for sure. I think
definitely.
they do
Sister
some
Gates has the makeup that you guys would probably mirror for sure. I don't know how many
yeah.
times you've seen him have like the
Mm. Yeah,
crosses off.
I wouldn't say any of those were actual like thought out influences when we did it. We were just kind of like, I think we kind of based it more around Hyde's look. He already was doing a little bit more of the gothy thing, and then as we brought in like Lioncourt, we just kind of would look up like goth ideas, and it just kind of came to, and some ideas were tossed around, and then we all slowly uniformed to that. Because I don't think I even like threw any eyeliner on until like over half a year that we were already doing it. I was like, I don't want anybody poking my eye out or anything. And then,
Ugh.
you know, definitely
One of the
worked out.
people I definitely think you should talk to about makeup would either have to be Jamie Salazar of Bath Mortar or
Mm.
MJ Bell of Nothing But Losers. They both do badass makeup. I think the other
Mm.
um, what was her name? Haley. Also, Haley. Oh no. Well, I'd say Haley does makeup, but she moved away, so I don't think she's a moot point if you ever, unless you move to Southern California.
No, I
But
don't think so.
definitely, yeah, but definitely look up Jamie Salazar and MJ
Yeah,
Bell.
Jamie's cool. I know Jamie from just like playing in bands. I've never really spoken much to her, but know of her. We got lucky. Our singer's girlfriend was doing makeup for a living. So, she kind of helped out with the whole process, come in and it'd just be like not blended in or whatever. And she'd do her thing before we played whenever she did. So
There you go.
it helped out a lot.
There you go. That's a good way of putting it. All right. We are hitting at about an hour and 9 minutes. This is a probably the longest one I've had. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining me. One last question.
All right.
If you didn't get into music, how would your life differ?
Oh, I mean, is there any way I can really answer that? If I never got into music, I'd probably be a lot more unstable. I think it's been a great outlet, and if I wasn't sitting there listening to like Korn and Slipknot when I was in high school and just letting them vent it out for me, I don't know, man. I mean, that probably would have been bad. It was a great way of just kind of letting things vent out without me having to really go out there and mess stuff up myself. I think I don't know. Probably would have clung on to something else. I think as a kid I was really into art. Might have continued drawing. Maybe I would have got into mechanic stuff. My grandpa's a mechanic, so sometimes I wanted to explore that a little more. I'd probably be better off financially because playing music is a bad financial decision for a lot of people. It costs a lot of money.
Given the fact that you are working at Tesla, I can definitely see you becoming a mechanic for sure. I mean, that's just hands down would be the correct move. If you have a stable connection between being a mechanic in Tesla and doing music, I definitely see if one's not possible, then definitely the other.
Yeah, which won't go down that route. I mean, if I had to stop doing music right now, I don't know. Maybe I'd just be a game streamer or something.
You game too. That's amazing. Okay, we're gonna stop now before I ask you more questions.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. That was the one and only Abel Vela Torres of Lioncourt, of Native Sons, of of a bunch of other connections, as well as the solo project of his. And Lioncourt drops their album upcoming in few months, pretty much.
Be another EP, a new EP, new single next month for sure. No Silence, same thing. Working on it, so definitely expect some new music coming real soon.
There you go. There you go. Wise words from the man himself. Okay, as always, I hope you have viewed this. If you haven't, it's going to be under my YouTube for Chris HexHeart. Look me up on YouTube, up the search bar, Chris HexHeart. You should find me up there, and then look up HexHeart Podcast. And as always, Abel, you are a god amongst the scene. And thank you for taking this time. So have a good day, my friend, and I'll see you in the scene.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.